penalties and 90 yards, which helped keep Washington in the game. 3 of those penalties cost Percy Harvin and fantasy owners 3 touchdowns. Russell Wilson to the rescue, of course. He ran for 122 yards and a touchdown and threw for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's the most rushing yards by a quarterback in the history of Monday Night Football.
He just shows you the dual threat that he is. You know, that's one thing we hang our hat for is having defenses account for his legs too. You know, with all the read with him and Marshawn in the backfield, him being able to run just adds another dimension to this team.
He had 122 rushing yards tonight. I mean, to get that out of your quarterback, what's that like for an offense?
It's frustrating, to be honest with you. We don't want him to have to do that, you know. But there's times where he has to do it, and fortunately enough, he came out of this game healthy. So as far as we know, but we don't want him to do that too often.
Well, that was honest from Doug Baldwin. 12 games left in the regular season. Take a look at their schedule for the 3-1 Seahawks. They have the Cowboys at home this Sunday and still have yet to face a division opponent this season. Consider all of that, Mr. Smith. How many games do you think they'll win this season?
I think the Seattle Seahawks will win 13 games. I still stand by that. I think they're the best team in the NFL. I still think they have the best defense. I was shocked by how sloppy they was from a penalty perspective last night. 13 penalties for 90 yards. Completely uncharacteristic as far as I'm concerned. It definitely took me back a little bit because I was very, very surprised. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 3 touchdowns by Percy Harvin called back on penalties. I mean, that's just unbelievable to me. So this could have easily been a blowout. They could have easily run away with it. That's not to take anything away from the Washington Redskins, who I thought played relatively decently compared to how awful they looked against the New York Giants, Skip. But in the end, I still found myself feeling sorry for them because the outcome was incredibly predictable from the perspective of you just knew that the Washington Redskins were going to lose this football game. And I've lost faith in Haslett from this perspective, the defensive coordinator for the Redskins. Why are you in man coverage throughout this game? Why did you not go to zone coverage the second you saw that Russell Wilson was going to sit there and look and literally salivate at the opportunities that he was going to have available to him because the field was wide open? On a couple of scrambles, Skip, I literally watched this guy run while there was not even a defender looking at him that was downfield. They all had their back turned because they were busy covering receivers. And I'm just saying to myself, this is Russell Wilson we're talking about here. Everybody knows that he has the capability to beat you with either his arm or his leg. And if a mere Percy Harvin, and Percy Harvin is big time, and I know how electric he is, but if Percy Harvin alone can scare you to death, where you are scared to go in a zone if you're the Washington Redskins defense, then you don't really have much of a hope. You've got to be able to say, let Russell Wilson and his arm beat us, not his legs, because clearly he came out of Wisconsin letting you know that his legs could beat you. That's how his decision-making, his poise, and his legs, those were his 3 attributes, even more so than his ability to throw the football. So in light of that, I mean, 122 yards rushing. I mean, I just look at that and the waste of Deshaun Jackson's effort, those 2 big throws. You connected with him on a 60-yard touch, and you connected with him on a 57-yard play. To watch that happen and for you to blow that opportunity because of something that you obviously should not have been doing, I mean, it was a foregone conclusion. I'm not really counting last night's game. It was a foregone conclusion that they were going to beat the Redskins. I think they're the best team in the NFL, and I think they win 13 games this year.
So you got them losing, what, a couple of road games?
Yes. One being at Arizona.
Okay, first of all, I give the Redskins credit for showing a little pride last night.
Yes.
That was just pure pride. Yeah. They licked their wounds over what your Giants did to them on a national stage, and they said, okay, let's at least show up. And they showed up, and they hung in that game.
Yep.
And to answer Kerry's question before I get to my points here, look, I said before the year Seattle would go 15-1 and lose only week 2 at San Diego, and I'm going to stick with that. But last night didn't make me feel real good about my prediction. It made me a little uncomfortable about my position here because I didn't love the way they played. Let's keep this in perspective. It took a gutsy and dangerous just go for broke gamble on the field goal, right? On the 4th down field goal. He lets his punter and holder run with the ball over left guard for a 1st down. You don't think that could have blown up in your face?
Yep.
And if it had, we might be having a very different conversation right now. But it took that to put the Redskins away. And it concerns me a little bit because I agree with Doug Baldwin. In fact, I didn't even know we were going to use that sound because I had it in my notes. He's exactly right. 122 rush yards is a bad sign going forward for the Seattle Seahawks because most of those yards uncalled, extemporaneous scrambles, right? It's not like he's running the zone read, the read option, right?
It wasn't planned.
No, it wasn't planned. So, and again, you make a good point. I know Trent Dilfer made this point about, okay, they're playing man. But the main breakdown for the Redskins, to me, was just lane discipline. When you rush Russell Wilson, he's 5 feet 11 inches tall. You have to stay in your lane. You have to have rush integrity where you have 4 people enclosing Russell Wilson. If you let him out the back door, he will kill you. He kills everybody. Okay? But again, just make the little man stand in the pocket and try to beat you looking over you instead of running around you. Okay. Well, that's on Hazlitt and it's on the pass rushers. It's just that's preparation. You just know this is the way you beat the Seattle Seahawks. And somebody down the line, especially in a road game, is going to make him beat them from the pocket. Because you look back at his rush yards, and there are a lot of games when he has 14 yards rushing, 13 yards rushing. So this was an aberration for him and for them. Now, to your Percy Harvin point, to me, my 15-1 prediction depends on his health. And you brought up DeMarco Murray. You know, is he going to wear out, wear down, get beat up? Well, Percy Harvin is the weirdest, most dynamic little player I think I've ever watched. They list him at 5'11", 184. When he catches the ball, he runs like Des Bryant runs with the ball, which is just kamikaze crazy, like blow yourself up crazy. At 185, he just catches the ball and ducks his head. He was trying to run over some of their DBs last night. How long are you going to last playing like that? And he can't seem to help himself. But he's as explosive a package of player as they have in that we have in this league right now.
I agree.
So he changes every game. Obviously, 3 get called back, or maybe that would have broken open and gone the other way. But big picture, what's happening now is Seattle is ranked only 12th in defensive efficiency. So the Legion of Boom is getting boomed on some, right? Aren't they a little bit here? They are. And Deshaun smoked them a few times last night, but he's going to smoke a lot of people.
He's quick.
Yeah, okay. But offensively,
I couldn't tell whether that was against Richard Sherman or Cam Chancellor. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell.
Are we going to get into that?
No, we're not going to get into it.
I thought you were going to bring that up.
No, I'm just saying I don't mind bringing it up. I'm just saying to you I don't know. Based on what I saw, 1 minute it looked like Deshaun Jackson went and Richard Sherman curled on the inside and then tried to come back and cover. I don't know what's going on right now. I will acknowledge that against Deshaun Jackson last night, they looked more vulnerable than I've ever seen them.
Okay, but again, you have to put it in perspective. He does that to everybody, which is why the Eagles, long run, are not going to win the NFC East. They're going to miss Deshaun's deep speed. That's just me. Okay, I won't get into it. Okay, we'll save that for later. But look, the point is, in defensive efficiency, they're only 12th. They're like sort of middle of the packish now. Offensive efficiency, they have risen all the way to 7th because the quarterback is playing at an MVP level. And obviously, Marshawn caught a bunch of balls. Usually, if they decide they're just going to run Marshawn down your throat or Turbin down your throat, whoever, they can go that way too. So I think they have become much more explosive on offense. And they're not quite what they were on defense. Not quite.
Well, because of their depth. I think that when you lose 2 guys to the Jacksonville Jaguars and Clemens and Bryant, I think that's going to derail you to some degree. Because again, if you don't have your muscle up front on a continuous basis, sometimes you're going to get exposed in coverage because people have more time to throw the football. I'm watching Kirk Cousins. Yeah, we're getting pressure on him, but there was sometimes he had ample time to throw that football. We weren't accustomed to seeing that last year. Seattle Seahawks. If you get pressure on a quarterback and you limit the amount of time that they have to throw the football, that secondary, that Legion of Boom is going to be able to handle their business. However, when they've got time to step back in the pocket, you know, take all the time in the world to throw the football, you've got some problems. And I think that's where it comes in terms of Seattle's lack of depth. This is the problem that we alluded to, which is why I said they would go 13-3 as opposed to 15-1, Skip Bayless, because I said to you, because when you are absent that depth, there are going to be times when guys are just not ready to go from a 60-minute perspective. That's what you got to worry about. There are going to be some days they just ain't there.
Okay, so last year they did lose a late-season game at home to Arizona. I do not believe they're going to lose a home game this year. But you tell me, if you've got them losing 2 more games, I'm going to give you the danger games.
Okay.
At Carolina, at 49ers, at Eagles, at Arizona.
I believe they're losing at Arizona and at San Fran.
Do you really?
Yes.
Okay.
I think they lose 2 more games.
I'm not sold on either one of those teams, and I'm not sure about Arizona's quarterback issues going forward because
Well,
they
that's
still have
that's
the nerve issues.
well, let me say this to you. Let me modify that position. Obviously, Stanton's out because he got hurt the other day. You're looking at Carson Palmer. He
Maybe.
he may not
They
come
say
back.
he's an upgrade, but
yeah,
if
he
it's-
might not come back. My issue is this. Whether it's at Philadelphia, you said at Philadelphia, right? They got at Philadelphia, at Arizona, at San Fran.
And
They're
at
losing-
Carolina, who's
they're
starting
at
to bounce back.
They're losing 2 of those 4 games.
Okay.
I would say to you, if I had to venture to guess, I would tell you it would probably be at San Fran, at Philadelphia, and the only reason I say not at Arizona is because of the quarterback issue.
Okay,
But
I say
believe
they're going to
losing
win
2 of those.
all 4 of those games by
Really?
default because the other teams are all flawed to me, more flawed than Seattle is flawed.
Okay.
All right, Westgate Superbook. We asked the question, how many games? Stephen A says 13-3, and you are still.
I'm 15-1 unless they lose to Dallas at home. I don't want to even start it.
Well, you know, they probably will lose to Dallas.
I don't want to hear unless.
No, they will.
I don't want to hear less.
Just had to throw
Yeah,
that
no,
out.
no,
we don't know. Don't
See,
throw
they're
anything
actually,
in.
they actually have a
Don't throw
game.
anything
And you know
in.
what? It's not an exhibition, or is it?
No,
Don't throw
no.
anything
No,
in.
it's a
Oh,
real
I'm
game.
sorry, I
It's a
missed
real
out.
game.
You
They're
say
playing
answer
a
the question.
preseason
You
game
say
against
answer the
Dallas.
question,
this
and then you come back and say, oh, but if. No.
So wait a second. 14-2, losing to Dallas.
I didn't say that.
Westgate Superbook has them getting at 11 games, the Seahawks. Let's move on, shall we? Are